Now, how are you? Okay, so I'm making this quick video just to explain to you a couple of things in terms of your model, right? So there's a couple of things that I'm seeing here that could be a potential problem moving forward. So let's look at them right now. Okay, so I'm gonna just make a copy of the arm. Can we do it this way? Let me see. Yep, clone. So I'll make a clone, keep it as a copy, and I'm gonna call it arm JT for my initials, and that way I don't mess up anything with yours. Okay, so I'm gonna just hide some of these stuff right here, and I'm gonna center this. Okay, so first things first, I'm looking at the center of the view, which is right here. So this arm should be located more into this black line, right? So let me show you how we can do that. So I'm gonna fix this like so. Bring the arm maybe right around here. We can always change it afterwards, just remember that. But now when I turn this on, you can see I want to do this a little bit more mathematically, more accurate. So I'm going to turn off the symmetry, and instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the arm around here. I'm doing it by eye for now, and I'm going to go to the hierarchies, affect pivot point, and then not necessarily center or align to object. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here where you have the x-axis value, and it's reading out 17.875 centimeters, right? I'm going to zero this out, and it basically places the pivot point right in the middle of the view, right? So now when I go back to modifier, I'm going to have to delete, or better yet, I'm going to actually open up the sub-object. What I mean by sub-object, if I open this up, I can select the word mirror, and now I can actually move the mirror anywhere, right? Obviously I want to align it right into the center of the view. So we're going to go down here again, and we're going to go back to zero, the pivot point, not pivot point, sorry, the mirror, right? There. So now it's 0, and that's in the right direction. So now I'm going to turn it on, so you can see now that the pivot point for the arm is in the center, and also the mirror is in the center, right? And then you can actually turn that back on. Now obviously I have to adjust it because now this character looks more like a football player. So we're going to do this the right way. Go back to editable poly and turn on end results on, right, toggle. Then we're gonna then turn the vertices and just move it in a bit closer, right? Now I would actually use a reference at this point, but in this case I'm just gonna do it by eye, right? And now we have to take care of a second problem, which is the direction of the arms. Right now these arms are straight down, and that won't not work with a rig, right? There's a reason why we always do this in a T pose or an A pose, right? But this right now, the arms are not in a relaxed form at all. So what's going to happen is when you rig the arms, it's already closed, so it means that you're gonna get some problems with skinning, especially around these areas, right? So oops, I'm so used to using Maya. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to editable poly, and I just select these vertices, and I want to rotate the arm now, how you have it in the other drawing, right? So let me take a look at that for a second. So I'm gonna unhide those, the front reference, right? And okay, turn it off for 1 second. I'm gonna go back to hierarchies, affect pivot. No, it's not affect pivot. I'm gonna affect what's called edit working pivot, right? So now all of a sudden, there it is, right? I'm gonna grab this guy and put it on his shoulder, on her shoulder, somewhere around maybe here, like so, right? And then turn it off. When I go back to editable poly and vertices, what's going to happen is I still have that selection, but the pivot point is down at the hand, meaning that if I rotate the arm, it's going to rotate based on where the pivot point is, right? Whoops. So what we have to do then is work with the working pivot that we just adjust. So we actually have it right here under the local or view orientation axis. I'm going to look for working, right? Now why is it not adjusting? Let me double check why. There it is, right? So I have to change it to also the transform coordinate center. Basically, if we look at these icons, this means that it basically puts the pivot point wherever, I guess, wherever it thinks. This one puts it in the middle of that selection, and then this is for the working, right? So now I can freely, right, move the arm out. But again, you see that there's some vertices that are sort of getting a bit crunched in, so I'm going to just deselect them as I go, and maybe turn back on the pivot. So that's about right. So now the arms is a little bit more correct. Now we could also use a T-pose, right? But I'm going to leave it like that for now because it's easy to adjust the arms at this later on point, as you can see, right? So undo. And now we're going to look at the next step that you need to sort of take into consideration. So I see that there's some triangles, and of course triangles are okay, meaning that your model's still going to be okay, but if you can avoid them, then let's do so, right? It's n-gons that you don't want end up having, right? So let me just bring this out a little bit. Trying to select. Let me try making it bigger. I'm using the plus or minus to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Now I can see. It's kind of hard to select that bracket, right? Maybe if I change the angle, it'll make it a little bit easier. Yes, it is, right? So I'm just gonna adjust the pivots there. Now the problem that I'm seeing already is this mess right here. We have to sort of adjust it, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab where is it, right here? I'm gonna use, oh yeah, it's right here, the cut tool, right? Cut tool, and with this I'll be able to cut a straight line. I'm just trying to plan it out a little bit so that it won't be too difficult. So from this point here to this point, I'm actually going to redraw that. See that, what I'm doing right now? And then I'm gonna right click to deselect and put my mouse right here and right there, right? And now we have to fix some of this stuff because obviously it's not ready to be released. So what we're going to do now next is we are going to do this, put it right across like so. So now you have to use your imagination, right? So obviously this is a triangle and a quad, But if I select, let's say, these two and delete them. Oh yeah, okay, so I'm gonna just use let me see. I have to apologize, I'm using a new laptop. I'll just go right here, which is delete, I believe. My shortcuts for some reason are acting kind of weird. That's not it. So funny, it's such a simple task. Hit delete, but I can't get it to work. Let me try it again. There we go, right? Oops. So, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna also get rid of this and delete it. Okay. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the edge tool, grab this edge, right? So select. Sorry, I'll do it again. Select, and then hold the Control key. Have these two edges selected, and then hit the bridge button, and there it is, right? So basically what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning it up. Bridge again, and there we go, right? And then we have to also delete this, and make it into obviously a quad. Now I can also select the edges, right? Now here's the funny thing is that I thought I saw an extra vertex there, but it could be just me. Right, so now I could also weld these instead of doing the other way, which was bridge. So I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and increase the tolerance and until I see them sort of snapping. Do you see that? There it is. So now it's pretty much one triangle in here, but we have to get rid of that. So, and obviously you're going to see what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this and make it into a quad, right? Now usually I try to model my characters already with quads, but obviously there's going to be some areas that you can't help but having triangles, so you have to sort of go back and clean it up a little bit, right? I'm actually, when I model, I try to also do the right topology on the first go. So I'm going to delete this, and of course I'm going to delete this as well. There, and now we're going to use a bridge once more, right? But a bridge for the edges, the edge tool, right? Edge selection. So now click and click, bridge. You can probably do more than like one edge. You can actually bridge a bunch of them at one time, right? But I'm just showing you like how I would actually recreate. Now there's a problem here. You see, kind of notice that you have a sort of a dip or like an indent in the arm, and that has to be fixed as well. So now it's more around the shoulder shape, right? And obviously we have still triangles here, right? And what I would have to do is do the same process I did up here, right? Because nobody's like shoulder and chest sort of have this sort of pushed in, right? So you have to have this a little bit more of a line, straight line, than as opposed to a bend, right? So what I would do is start moving these out a little bit, then go to the vertex. How did I change to vertices in 1 second? I just hit the number 1 on the keyboard and it jumps to vertices. If I want to go back to edge, then I would hit number 2. Number 3 is borders. Number 4 is, you name it, polygons, right? But the more you make it neater, right, the easier it will be to animate and also texture map. That's very important, right? Or else Roxanne's gonna kill me. Just kidding. Roxanne's a very good friend of mine. I've known her for about Where is it? I known her for about almost 20 years. I can't believe it. I met her in 2001. Sorry, 2001. Yeah, actually, it's actually 2000 or 2001. So very close, right? Okay, so now here it is. I'm gonna go to cut tool there, and I'm gonna also grab sorry, my bad, the polygon, right? So you can also select it from here, polygon, right? It's not as fast as using the number keys, but you know, you can still save yourself some time that way. And delete. And now we're gonna go ahead and start to get these guys merged. There's a problem here too at the bottom, so what we're gonna do is this. There. Right? So that this is gonna be gone as well. I could, and I'm gonna show you something cool. If I go to the edge and I want to just get rid of the edge, if I hit delete right now, it's not going to work, right? But there is a way to delete it and still keep it as a polygon, and that of course you have to use up here, the ribbon, right? So under, I believe, modeling, yes, somewhere here, where's edit, there should be sort of like a delete. Let me see. Maybe it's right here. I used to use it. It's been a while since I've. Oh, here we go. Remove. Right, and it's gone. You see that? Then I can also select this and go to remove, and there we go. Right. So it's now quad 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. And so now all we have to do is worry about bridging these guys. So one, let's try this. Number 2. Sorry, we'll do it again. I see. Here's the problem. It's hard for you to see it, but I know. Actually, no. I was actually wrong. Okay. So that, and then of course this. One more time. And then I could just bridge them all in one shot, right? There, right? So now you see nobody's a square or boxy. So that means that we have to now grab this vertice and make it more rounded, right? We will also at some point start to pull these out to make it more like organic, right? So obviously this needs adjusting, but I'm not gonna go through all that just now because I think you got the idea, right? Now, in order for you to have sort of the roundness of the shoulder, you would also need to grab scale tool, right? So I'm just making it a little bit more string, and maybe push it in a bit. And with the rotate tool, it's still using the working, so I'm gonna put it back to view, or if not, local, right? And now you can see that we can now start setting up the shoulder areas, right? And then again, we're gonna fix these set of vertices because they seem to. I'm gonna just turn this off. They seem to be a little bit off. So again, we're gonna just fix them. You can see that it's still indented, but we will fix that in a second, right? And then grab the move tool, right? And we will need more segments here, of course. But before we do, we're gonna go to the edge tool and start to also push these out, right? Same thing with this, right? And then maybe these guys have to be pushed, or vertices. We're gonna grab the vertices, just move them in like that, right? Remember again, the roundness, right? So obviously this would be where the biceps are. And if we take the quick slice, we can then just draw this line, right? There we go, right? So, and I did it at an angle on purpose because with this one line, I can actually take care of the muscle back here, right? So, for example, we can then do a little bit of, yes, an indent, right? Right, so, and then for here, we can start to create the bicep, right? Right now, the line here is fine, and I see what you're doing. You're trying to add a little bit of more segments, which is good. But you can also relax it a little bit more. Anatomically speaking, there is sort of let me just get rid of this guy here. Go, right? Try to set the geometry already so that it almost mimics a bicep, right? See what I'm doing? I'm not adding anything new. I'm just taking the same geometry that you have, and I'm trying to already make that shape, right? Now, obviously the shoulders need some work, but there's enough geometry already to start sculpting that, right? Now, a lot of times, I mean, people are saying, well, you know, why do you even do it this way when you can just do it so fast in ZBrush or even Modbox, right? And the reality is that I tell people it's very important to understand the principles of retopologizing a model, because even though I'm using Modbox or ZBrush, you will still need to sort of understand the principles of retopologizing, right? Because ZBrush does it for you, but every game industry and visual effects industry, they expect you to know how to do this manually, right? For various reasons. The easiest reason I can tell you off the top of my mind is ZBrush does it, but it does it sort of artificial. It does a good job, but it's better and more perfect when someone makes it custom, right? So there we go, right? So obviously we need to address some of the segments here, because I think there's too many right now. But you can also just bring this out like so. If you grab these last, right? You know, I better look at the back, make sure that that's selected as well, right? Right. So basically now I'm gonna have to use less polys or less segments, because I think you might have like an extra row or two loops, but that's okay, right? I preferably just attach the arm into cylindrical shape. That's probably a better way, but you can still finish a model this way as well, right? You can see already that, I mean, it's still sort of boxy from the top. Like you can actually see a rectangle shape. So if you sort of look at it from different angles, you can then take some of this and start to warp it to look more rounded, like, right? Same thing with up here. In other words, at the end you want to have sort of a circle shape here for the neck, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this point, push it out, and same thing with this one here, push it out, and eventually we'll need another segment going across here to start to shape this to be a neck, right? Same thing with these areas. I mean, I send you another video and it shows you a different approach that I think, you know, approach it might make it a little bit easier. So if you haven't watched it, then I suggest you do so, because there's a lot of ways to do a model, especially for a human model. And what I'm trying to do is sort of illustrate two different ways. One's more for cartoony, and the other one's more for realism, right? Realism. So, um, and if you have to make breasts or something like that, where's your front? Right here. Yep. Then basically you would take four of these, like let's say down here. I wonder if Max has circulate. Let me just try that, because I know Maya has it. Oops, Maya shortcut. Okay. Probably take that, and let me just double check and see if it has it. Okay, so it doesn't have it. But there's, I mean, what circulate does is it automatically turns into the shape of circles. So what it would do, what would circulate do is it will grab the selection and draw this for you already. See what I'm doing, right? And I would basically try to use this as how to introduce breasts, right? For a female character. Let me grab this and already start to make the shape. Obviously, it has to come out a bit more. Okay, I think right now this is a little bit too into itself, right? Let me turn on the turbo smooth to see what we have. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to turbo smooth and turn off isoline display for now and change it to number 2, so that way you get something smoother, right? And now go back and work on the poly, right? Anyways, I don't want to make this too long. I think already I'm up to half hour, but I feel that this was kind of necessary to steer you in the right direction, because I know, especially at the beginning, you know, if you get into the bad habits, it'll take longer to wipe that out, right? So you can see, you know, the difference, right? You can see now that this is kind of starting to look like a shoulder. But if you look at the back, you have sort of like a weird shape still, right? And that's what happens when the geometry kind of flows in a weird, unnatural way, right? That's it. So if you have any questions or anything, by all means, you can always bug me. We can also talk in person, and I can definitely answer any questions that you may have. So that's all. Okay, and I'll see you later.